he was gonna let me park at his place, so I could tell it wasn't exactly a stable situation. He just brought me some breakfast. Sausage and McGriddle special request. Very nice. Anyway, I'm gonna have to make some phone calls today. There's a lady who does live local and might be able to help me. She said that she does advocate for disabled people. She's also an animal lover. I like that. We'll see how that works out. I guess it all depends on how much she's willing to learn. A lot of people think they know everything and they get set on that, or they think that the process is the same for everybody. No. One little label can screw up all your rights, and many of us who have been out here on the streets know that. But you gotta have somebody who's in a house who has those rights in order to have those rights as a homeless person. Don't get me wrong, you can be homeless. It's not technically illegal to be homeless. It's just illegal for you to exist as a homeless person. Many of the activities that you guys take for granted and the things that you take for granted, such as credit or housing history, that affects your ability to get into housing, any sort of housing. I don't just mean government housing. Now, you can rent a room from a friend, but how often are they going to report that you actually live there? Oh yeah, reporting agencies. A lot of these major apartment complexes, one of the great things as far as trying to maintain your credit or build effective credit is these places all report to reporting agencies about how long you were there, how much damage you did to the apartment, things of that nature. And anything that you pay off, they go, hey, look, you paid it off, or she paid it off. For somebody who doesn't make jack shit, who's expected to do more for less because he's a dummy, that's pretty screwed up. And then when people tell you how smart you are, but then they always want to treat you like you're a dummy. Brandon Jeffson and Kevin Levant are two of those people. They're always telling me how smart I am. Then they fuck around like two monkeys with a football. I'll give you an example. The two of them fucked with a chair. They couldn't get the chair out the door. It was a lightweight chair. It had a pine frame. It was basically like a lazy boy, but it was all ultra lightweight shit. So the two of them couldn't get it through the back door, and they got it stuck. And I tried to tell them how to do it. I tried to step it in there and do it myself. They wouldn't let me. They finally got it stuck in the doorway. Couldn't figure out how to get it unstuck. And went, fuck it, we'll each carry a box. And when they went to do that, I went and got underneath the chair and stood up with it and stepped right out the door, and I made it to the door of the other apartment before they did with that chair. After they've been treating me like I was a dummy for forever. Yes, I'm different, but just because you choose to believe I must be retarded because I'm different doesn't mean that I'm retarded. Those of you who acknowledge my intelligence, why is it that you proceed after telling me about my intelligence to continue to talk to me like I'm retarded? You got no idea how many people have said, well, Natalie's dead. They found her killer. These are two things that I know. How is stating the obvious? How is that helping my situation? You guys make it just about Natalie. You don't take a look at my situation. People tell me to put myself in their shoes, and they tell me they put themselves in mine sometimes. But then you have them tell it back to you, and you're like, Jesus, you guys are so fucking ignorant. Even people that were supportive, that were arguing for me, the problem wasn't that they were arguing for me that was the thing I was angry about. It's the misinformation. Your assumptions of autism, your assumptions of Tourette syndrome. When I curse, no, I curse with intent. I intend on putting emphasis on those words because you didn't hear me the first 30 fucking times. And then you say, Sean, you're the one who's not hearing me. No, I am hearing you. I'm hearing you telling me your assumptions. I'm telling you the facts, and I'm trying to get you to look at the evidence. That's one thing that nobody seems to get, no matter how many thousands of times I say it or type it. When you are called mentally ill, you need a friend or family member to advocate for you. When we say advocate, there's two different types of advocates. One of them is your friend or family member who stands there with you and says, hey, somebody needs to do something about this fucking abuse. The other type of advocate is people like Penny Cooper, but without the first type of advocate, friend or family, Penny Cooper is not going to do her job. Jen Beebe is not going to do her job. Tamara, after realizing how fucked up Nebraska is, especially towards autistic folks, especially after meeting me and finding out what I'm going through, she wanted to prepare her son for the bullshit that this really is. He is an adult now. Hopefully he's doing well. Anyway, this lady who says that she can advocate, I want to get a hold of her, and that's one of the first phone calls I got to make. There's also a lot of evidence that, there was so much evidence that I screenshotted after I learned how to do that. I'm glad a lot of it is on the internet, even if it's only on my Facebook or on my YouTube, because at least people have access to it. They also have access to what a mean son of a bitch I can be. Oh my God, Sean, how dare you tell the truth about me? Common consensus. Now, there's a lot of autistic folks that I can get along with, highly intelligent. You get a group of us together, and it can be a very fun time, as long as we are feeling like being social or sociable. If we're not, well, everybody there knows that it's okay to leave. It's when you trap somebody, you back them into a corner. You don't let them leave. You don't let them move on. You don't let them literally move to another location without still making their life hell. Something needs to be done about it. Using the excuse of, oh, he's autistic, so he's too retarded to know what abuse is. Fuck you. I grew up in fucking hell. I grew up in the most abusive environments that you can fucking think of here. Is that entirely true? No. It could have been much worse. It could have been my family that was doing those things to me. My family just simply wasn't there. My brothers and sisters were in the system. And of course, my parents weren't allowed to have us because my dad was in prison for 38 counts of cocaine possession with intent to sell. And there's my mom. Fuck. That's the most screwed up part. They kept thinking that my mom, because she's a woman, she was going to love her kids enough to get off the drugs, And that's why we were in the temporary foster care system instead of a more permanent home. An actual home where we could have some actual stability. Many of the traits that you guys assign to autism, they're not autistic traits. They're signs of abuse. Now, I've shown my paperwork from the hospitals. I've also shown how those very same hospitals that gave me that paperwork subjected me to much of the same abuse. We treat you like a junkie and then throw you out the door. Now pay us. It is so fucking screwed up. Millions of Americans going through this. Millions of Americans so desperate that they just want help for themselves. They recognize that there's a lot of other victims, but they're only speaking out for themselves. They're not speaking out for other victims. The few that do, it's only a select group. We're only going to speak out for gay victims or black victims or female victims. While all of us who are being victimized got to look at this and say, hey, if we all work together, we can stop this shit. The excuses just keep on coming in. If it's a black man, you tell him how much worse a black woman has it. If it's a black woman, you tell her how much worse Native Americans have it. If you're a white man, your disabilities don't matter because you're white. Your disabilities don't matter because you're a man. Your poverty doesn't matter because you're a man. Your poverty doesn't matter because you're white. Because you are white, you are to blame for every bad thing that has ever happened to a black person. Because you're a man, you're to blame for every bad thing that's ever happened to a black person. Or to women. Or to children. Anytime there's an atrocity in the world committed by men, we get it shoved in our face that this is how men are. Most of the men that I've known who are like that were that way over women. Over being possessive of women, over wanting to believe women who were nuttier than fucking squirrel turds and didn't get what they fucking wanted. Were raised that they're American princesses. The whole point of America is kind of get away from them kind of people. The upper echelon who fuck over poor people and then tell the poor people it's poor people's fault. It's poor people's fault that, of course, the working class are the majority of the poor. When I hear enough of that racist BS, I throw a little bit of it back. Just the stuff I can get away with towards every race. I'm an equal opportunity fucking asshole. Your asshole group is not more important than any other asshole group. That includes whites. If you include the white victims, the majority of victims are males. Majority of the victims are white. This comes to police brutality, police violence, and of course, who is assumed to be guilty by the general public. The general public wants to believe that every American woman is Susie Whitebread. They want to believe that the average American is a predator. We've got judges that have been pressured to the point and are afraid to the point that if a man walks into their courtroom who is poor and a woman comes into the courtroom who has got some support, there is no contest there whatsoever. That woman is automatically going to win, or there's going to be all sorts of hell to pay. Even if she only lives in an apartment, even if she's only living with friends, those friends are helping her. Oftentimes, those friends, but the way that it starts off is, oh, poor me, poor me. One little white lie because you don't want to get in trouble for having your heroin found. When your friend has a fucking meltdown from severe amounts of fucking abuse and neglect, and then, of course, getting stranded there, that sucked. That wasn't something that I wanted. I didn't want the phone to break. I didn't want the car to break. I certainly didn't want it to happen right there then at that fucking moment. I absolutely did not want to get fucking dehydrated. That was not part of the plan. Alicia Bollinger was gonna teach me how to use it. She didn't realize how broken it was, I'm certain. That was such a fucked up phone. She had to know how fucked up it was. She set it up, you know? Anyway, my task for the day is to get a hold of this lady. She's disabled herself, and I'm not sure how much she's going to be able to do, but she is local. She might be able to call some of these services with me and go to some of these services with me. I don't know yet. I'll have to see. As far as having to stay with heroin addicts at the shelter here, call after call after call after call, and there was never room, never a bed. Their waiting list is 5 years long. Well, how does anybody ever get in? Oh, well, they have a selection process. Okay, well, let's go through the selection process. Oh, they say they don't have any room for the night. Well, how long does the selection process take? If they had a bed for the night, then the selection process you could do, obviously, very quickly. It wouldn't take 3 weeks or 6 weeks. And then there's all this running around. For me to go check my mail every day, I gotta drive around now with a vehicle that doesn't have legal plates. Stupid. And I try to explain to people every time they want me to move, I gotta start over. I don't have the resources to go spending a whole bunch of money on getting my vehicle legal in a particular area. Let's say I moved from Chapel, Nebraska to Bozeman, Montana. All right, now you want me to move to Bozeman, Montana. You want me to spend a whole bunch of money that I don't have to spend because of court crap and because of traveling. And now you want me to spend all this money to get my driver's license transferred over to Bozeman, and then you want me to transfer over all my medical over to Bozeman, and you want to transfer all of my legal stuff over to Bozeman. You want to transfer my vehicle title to Bozeman, or have me buy a vehicle, buy another vehicle. I don't have any fucking money to buy another vehicle with. I still got court dates I got to go to. I have to travel to those. I have to show up or there's a warrant for my fucking arrest. I went to court date after court date after court date. Over 30 court dates in all for shit that they eventually dropped the charges on because it was bullshit. They just kept charges on me long enough that they could destroy the body camera evidence, and then they dropped the charges. They had nothing to fucking hold me on, nothing to fucking arrest me on. They had to fucking manufacture things. They had to pretend things happened that did not happen. They had to destroy evidence of their wrongdoing, and they had to prevent me from turning them in while they did it. When you are forced to go to literally the officers you're trying to turn in literally those officers by name, when you're denied the information that allows you to do the right thing there. Like, of course, you want me to remember the name of every single officer and every time and every day. This is why I record it on my YouTube channel, is so that it is recorded, because it needs to be. The actual situation, recording that is more important than people's bullshit, people's assumptions. How many times have police officers outright talked over me, shown me that they have zero fucking respect for me? How many times has that been over women's lives? And how many times have those women been busted lying? And then later on admitting to it, like Rayanne Ingersoll. She admitted that she did the things that she did because she was mad at me. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make it right. They're hurtful things. She didn't realize that, of course, telling the little white lies that she told so that she wouldn't get in trouble for harming those kids. She didn't realize that I was going to lose a whole bunch of evidence that I needed to be able to turn in swiftly so that child abusers could swiftly be brought to justice. That the strength of the law could be brought to bear against actual assailants, actual bad police officers before they struck again. Waylon Lolatai could have been stopped before he pulled a shotgun out on Zaid Atkinson. He could have been stopped before he ever assaulted Sammy Leon Lawrence IV or Michelle Rodriguez or Kelly Clark. He could have been stopped. That could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sorry, in Waylon Lolatai's case, it's literally millions of dollars. Think of all of the people that were involved in that process, plus the money for incarcerating those people. His victims, they incarcerated his victims. And while I was told that I couldn't file a report against those officers, or they'd bring me the paperwork, I'd fill it out, they'd take it to the office. It goes to the office. Literally, the officer that I'm trying to fill the paperwork in about in the office brings it back to me. And then they retaliate again and again by assaulting you, putting you on suicide watch, throwing your food across the floor. It was horrible. But that's really how it is. I was painted as some sort of a murderer with the Natalie situation, with the situation with Rihanna. I was painted as some crazy lunatic who just flipped out for no reason. No, you don't fucking abuse kids. You don't abuse kids. I don't care if you are my friend of 20 fucking goddamn years. You don't fucking abuse kids. Whether they're your kids or in Rihanna's case, someone else's, you don't fucking do it. Thank goodness those girls were able to get somewhere safe. According to Joshua Rayborn, they wrote a letter to the judge saying that they didn't want to go home to their mothers. They wanted to stay at the foster home they were at. It was a good foster home. I think that's how it should be. There's a lot of hatred in this world. And for me, having to be angry and hateful at that, at the racism, at the my group is better than yours, my group is more important than yours, the victims who are your gender don't matter, the victims who are your color don't matter, the victims who are your religion don't matter. Oh, your religion is different than mine? Well, then it makes it okay for me to sin against you because I'll just say in Jesus' name and I'm going to heaven and you're not. So much of that mentality. Anyway, it all costs money. All of it. All of this traveling that you guys tell me if you go here or you go there. The grass is greener in Oregon. The grass is greener in California. The grass is greener in Memphis, Tennessee, right? The grass is greener in Bristol, Virginia, Bristol, Tennessee. The grass is greener at Abingdon. The grass is greener. It's always greener somewhere else. And it costs money to get that somewhere else. And it costs money to get set up in that somewhere else where you can actually survive and exist. It takes money to do that. Now, when your name and your reputation has been destroyed, that title of mentally ill, how many people does it kill? So many, especially out here on the streets where you assume we're all mentally ill drug dealers. You assign us to everything. You're not allowed to assign to black people anymore. You're not allowed to assign to immigrants anymore. You're not allowed to assign to homosexuals anymore. You're not allowed to pretend that every homosexual is a child molester anymore. So you just take it out more on the homeless. Pretend they're all child molesters. Then you throw the child molesters out on the streets with us. They don't have to go knocking tent to tent telling us that they're a child molester. They just check in with their local police or their local probation officer. And none of us are the wiser unless someone like, of course, you can't trust the word of Officer Steinman. But Officer Amos will tell you who they were. You assign theft. You used to assign theft and rape was always something that you tried to shove as a black people trait or a Mexican trait. The immigrants are doing this. You guys know the rhetoric. You got to hear it out of Donald fucking Trump, President of the United States. Yes, I know that he is no longer the President of the United States. It's not the point. Now that it's not socially acceptable to blame that on immigrants anymore, you assign that to the homeless even more. And you throw those people out on the streets with us. You blame all of us for the actions of those people, and it's primarily the actions of those people while they were in houses. But every victim in America gets to see over and over again how turning in a predator can destroy your life because you did the right thing. It can destroy your life, same as it destroys the life of the accused. But we also have gender assignment in the courts. We even have it assigned on Facebook and YouTube. I'm sure all of you have noticed that. You try to turn in these female groups that are making anti-man slogans and hatred towards specifically men. You're not allowed to turn them in, but you change one word. You change the word male to female. And all of a sudden, you're in a whole world of hurt. All of a sudden, you've got hundreds of women who are all complaining about, oh my God, this is anti-woman stuff. We've got to get rid of this. We have to form up the anti-lesbian league. And then there's the, oh, well, we're man-hating lesbians. We can go at these people too. We're all allowed to universally hate this person. Whether you're a ultra right-wing Christian or an ultra left-wing lesbian man-hater, you're all allowed to systematically destroy men's lives just because you didn't get what you wanted. Because of bias, you have pretty much free reign of bias-related incidents that you're allowed to bring up, but we're not allowed to bring up the ones that happen to us. Because that bias is against us. It's against whites. It's against males. The same as it against anybody else. Except, where do our special rights end and where do they begin? Because I'm white, the special rights of a disabled person don't exist. Because I'm poor, the special rights of a disabled person don't exist. These free services that you want me to driving around on the highway in this car is excellent gas mileage. Driving around in town or up through those mountains, I go through a lot of gas, especially loaded down like this. Going to free services in town, even when my vehicle was completely legal, going to those services was robbing me fucking blind of all of my money. To not get the help that I needed, stopping the predators here in Tillamook. Same thing happened in the Dalles. Same thing happened in Hood River. Nobody fucking cares. The homeless community talks about how they care. You got 30 people down there all talking about how they care, how they wish somebody would help them get up and out. But then I see them just sitting there. The place is run like a fucking prison yard. Well, except they don't have guns at the prison yard for the most part, except for the prison guards. There, you got people in houses that pull up in their nice vehicles with their friends and show off their pistols. It's supposed to be a church-run place in the Dalles. So it's not just children that I stop and fight for. It's also disabled and at-risk adults, especially out here on the streets. We try to push children out on the streets to go to these services that are for children. And then we also try to push these services to do more. One of the issues that we have as homeless people, like in Boulder, for example, is that you can't get through the door. When you try to call, like, all right, stand up for kids, there was a lady there who did fight hard for those kids. She wasn't well liked. I believe her name was Maureen. There was another lady, a redheaded lady. She was pushed out as well, and she came out and she fought for those kids. She was out there canvassing for those kids Every day after work, she was wearing the purple stand up for kids shirt and going out there and talking to the kids that were out on the streets, listening to them about how some of the other services in town that are specifically for kids were being run by creepers who weren't providing the services. You know, if you show up here at the, God, what's that building called? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, they're supposed to have sack lunches for kids out on the streets. A lot of them kids weren't actually out on the streets, they were just poor kids. Some of them were upper middle class or rich kids too. They showed up because that's where their friends were, the people that they wanted to identify with. This is a very difficult thing for a lot of American parents to have to deal with. A lot of people they listen to gangster rap. They watch movies that are older than dirt now and start idolizing a style of life that obviously the people who are living those lifestyles are rapping about how much it sucks and getting up and out, getting their mama a house somewhere out of Compton. I mean, seriously, man, why are you idolizing that? And then we're supposed to pretend that that's what black society is, but we're not allowed to take it out on black society, so we take it out on homeless people. We're not allowed to make fun of a black person anymore who's collecting a social security check, a disability check, or a welfare check, or going through the breadline. We're going to take all that out on homeless people. It must be homeless people's fault. Our disabilities magically don't exist when we're homeless. It becomes merely a matter of exploitation. Like when you've got a fucked up back and then everybody wants to offer you a job lifting shit at a fucking warehouse. Are you kidding me? Where were all these job offers before I fucked up my back? Oh, dude, you could be getting paid $17 an hour to start off with at this warehouse here. All you gotta do is move shit onto a pallet. Hey man, I can get you a job. Can you move 50-pound bags of bird feed all day? Fuck no. Not even close to possible. People don't want to hear that though. Anyway, I've been talking for long enough and I gotta piss like a racehorse. I gotta call this lady about advocacy. I got my recording device so I can make sure I record everything. I have the recordings, the fuck ups at the hospital. And I need help turning in the crimes that were committed against me at the hospital here. There's also supposed to be protections in place. There's supposed to be a measure of checks and balances. This is something that, all right, so the British and the Germans often talk about American democracy on their channels. I mean, since World War II, it's been this mass infatuation. It's weird. But they also believe in something we simply do not have it. There is no system of checks and balances beyond your pocketbook. If your pocketbook is big enough, you can commit whatever crime you want. If your pocketbook is tiny, then of course you've got the money to take the blame, and that is all. That's all you're going to get. So the lower you are on the social ladder, the more shit you take, and also the more expensive everything is. And nobody wants to take that into account, do you? How much more expensive it is to have to eat fast food, plus you're eating a bunch of crap that ain't no good for you. You're trying to eat off the dollar menu because you're trying to conserve money. you're trying to save money to get up and out, but then you're getting camping tickets because you're having to live close enough to the services that you can travel to them for as many appointments as you're being sent to, for all these places that you're told, each and every one of these agencies, you're told it's not their job, it's not their job, it's not their job. Fill out their paperwork, come back for the therapy. We'll pay for the therapy, we won't help with housing. What the fuck? Meanwhile, most of the trauma these people are experiencing is what? Trauma-related issues, or trauma issues related to housing, related to not having a safe environment, related to being stuck in subservient environments where anybody can victimize them at any point in time, and you're the most likely people to be victimized. Who wants to hear a homeless person? How many of you have been pissed off at the homeless? One homeless person. Or, of course, you hear a few folks at work talking about how they don't like homeless people, and you just want to join the conversation idly. Maybe you want to use it as a way to try to fit in. All of a sudden, you're telling a story of this homeless person you saw flying a sign, and then he got out of his car or got out of his hobo clothes before he got into his Ferrari drop top or his Corvette convertible. Isn't it always a drop top or a convertible in those stories? You ever get sick of telling those stories? Meanwhile, a lot of y'all take a look at somebody who's called delusional, who tells a lot of those stories. And we all know those people. The habitual nerds that never quite got it. That, of course, even if they're honest, that doesn't guarantee them anything. But they think if they tell these stories, oh, my cousin can fly a military drone over your house. Or, I saw a homeless person getting into a Maserati. Or, those kind of stories. Well, the homeless person flying a sign and living in $1 million mansion and having a drop top Maserati. No. This is America, folks. That is not how it works. Right around Christmas time, people are a lot more giving, except for the last few years. It's been rough on everybody. But around Christmas time, if you have a good spot, you're going to have the possibility of getting $150 in a day, but only for a few days. Gotta try to do it on a weekend and fly all day. Now that's as a male. If you're a much older male, like you're white-haired, you can make $300-400 a day, only around Christmas time. If you're a pretty blonde-haired, blue-eyed female, you won't be able to carry all the groceries that people will give you, and people will give you stacks of cash. A pretty blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl out there flying a sign, if she has the right place to do it, can make easily $2,000 a day if she stands there all day. She's going to have to find a set of bushes nearby to start stuffing stuff into, because if people see you surrounded by groceries flying a sign, they're going to stop giving you stuff. So, of course, there's a lot of women that I have met personally, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girls, that after being on the streets and seeing how it is for a lot of other people, started food drives around Christmas time, and all they did was stand out there with the sign after getting unhomeless, because it's a lot easier. If you're a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl, yes, that is very true. It doesn't mean that blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girls aren't victimized out on the streets, or they don't know, at least in part, what it's like for many of the rest of us. Some of them make the connection, though. Instead of saying it happened to them because they're a woman, that the horrible actions that people committed against them when they were homeless, they don't convince themselves it must have been because they were a woman. They know that it was because they were homeless, and the homeless take the blame for everything. Now, I know a lot of homeless people from other countries, so I fight for their rights. I know a lot of homeless people that are part of the LGBT community, so I fight for their rights. I know a lot of homeless people who are black, so I fight for their rights. But I fight for their rights best and serve their rights best by fighting for the rights of the most victimized in the country. That is males in specific, and the poor in specific. Specifically, among the poor, it is the homeless, and specifically the disabled. Any flaw that you can find in another human being, any flaw that you can assign to them or to their character, to play on bias. No judge wants to be ostracized by the media because a women's group won't stop calling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times from hundreds of different numbers to news agencies until that news agency finally folds and says, all right, well, we'll make these guys look like assholes then. What the hell? So let's see if I get an advocate today. Good to be ready. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper or your sister's keeper, and no victim left behind. Come on.